Friday, September 26th, market analysis, Stan Ehrlich, 1:22 California time. We had an update today. First one since we've got a possible, I think, high in place at the beginning of the week for the beginning of the break into the October lows, which should happen sometime in October. There's a very, very high historical likelihood that it will do it again. We hope. I'm expecting it, planning for it. So we got overbought in the indexes. The SPY had a bearish engulfing ER sell signal you'll see in a moment. They all started to dribble down on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and came back up a little bit today. Maybe a little bit more than I would have liked, but not that bad. And the 1-minute chart for the MES challenges an earlier rally high earlier in the day. So it didn't make new highs, but it certainly closed relatively strong, up about 4 points. We did have an outside down day, Ehrlich reversal at the top of the market so far, to the exact day, of course, on the SPY. Down Wednesday, Thursday, and a little bit today, back up again. There may have been a very tiny, tiny gap to close, so that's now closed. And I don't see any reason why it would keep on going up. In fact, I'd love to see another bearish engulfing on Monday or Tuesday, which we could possibly have. And here is the 1-minute chart. As you can see, that doesn't look super bullish. It's a retracement in what I think is going to end up being, in the next couple of trading days, probably easily next week, a low lower than this week's low for all the indexes in a general sense, probably all of them. QQQ bounced, was overbought, started to come down Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and a little bounce today. And the 1-minute data just doesn't quite make it. As far as I can't see anything bullish. I know it closed near the highs, strong, up a bit, blah, blah. Well aware of that. Doing this too long to ignore that. NASDAQ, same story. Don't see any reason to change my opinion. 1-minute NASDAQ, same situation. Now, the YM, the Dow, acts and the Russell differently than the S&P and the NASDAQs. So that's S&P, SPY and ES, of course, and QQQ and NQ, of course. But here we have the YM, the Dow. It also topped out, but not any reversal, just overbought. Came down Thursday, topped out on Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday down and back up pretty good today, but still no new high. And only basically back up to the low of the reversal day, or the high day, I should say, on top, which again was on September 23rd. Anytime we close above, or even tick above the high we saw in the last few days, then my opinion has to start to change. I don't like seeing double tops. Sometimes they fool you. But a double top ends up being a top. That's what I want, some sort of top. And again, I think we may have seen it. So, nice rally, not that big a deal. I shrink this a bit? No, not really. And we're going to go to Russell. Topped out, 1 day down, 2 day down, and 1 day up. Overbought conditions, divergence top, although very minor. It just simply rolled over so far. Next, RTY, Russell, 1-minute chart, stopped right around a little resistance here, and I mean a little, just the highs and lows in the last 2.5 days. Bonds had a slight steady day, slightly higher high, a little higher low than yesterday's new low for the move down, since we got a sell signal on the top of this market on September 17th. Now that signal has proven to be pretty good. Past tense, can't change it, it's worked. I still think it's going to work better. I think we're going to see new lows. I think we're going to see the market come down Well, yesterday and today was the first support area. I really should draw something in there. Hang on a second. Yeah, that'll be all right. And there we go. So some previous highs in particular recently were tested again today, and it didn't do much. I'm still looking for lower levels. I'm probably down in the ballpark of low 113s, 12. Let's see. Lower close by a tiny bit, 3. Low today is about the same as yesterday's low, maybe exact. And we are now closing below a support level on the notes. I think it's going to drop to the next support level, 111.23, maybe down to 111.05 or 6. Next, our rally in crude oils reached some resistances I was looking for and pulled back down under the resistance area on the close, although still higher on the day, not by much. I think today could be a minor high day. We're almost overbought, very, very close. I think it might dribble off a little bit to back to support again at 61.68, but my opinion is not very strong. I could also see it moving up a bit more and getting overbought up to 67.56 and then having a little bit of a dip. Natural gas, I have no change of opinion. This complex head and shoulder top, I'm now looking for 1.5. It's a little bit higher than 1.1 I was looking for, a month or two ago. The different contract months affect the objectives. Sometimes they get bigger, sometimes they get smaller. This is a little smaller. I think it's going to make new lows very soon. We tested resistance twice, came down and tested support once a day early this week, Tuesday. Yep, looking for new lows, pure and simple, and probably next week, maybe early next week. Next, heating oil, minor new high close, 2 days in a row. Nothing particularly spectacular about it. It kind of appears like a little bit of a short-term intermediate upside breakout, but that doesn't do much to me in the first place. A lot of tops here at very close to where we are at today's highs. We're not quite overbought. Maybe a little bit higher, but I'm probably better off looking for turning points down. And we got overbought earlier this week, couldn't make any new highs, and still hovering in the same price range for the last 4 days. Gold was significantly overbought and started a loss of upside momentum, but it did make a bunch of new highs after that, which is a little surprising. Normally an overbought condition of 91 would turn the market down and down substantially immediately, but that didn't happen this time. So that's why we have protective stops. Always, always, always. Protective stops are commonly called a stop loss order. But hey, they can also be used to protect the profit. So stop loss means losing a little bit of your profit, I hope. Looking for a top here in gold. Silver is way more overbought and is now up to 84 on the high RSI, on my custom RSI scale. And remember, these are the RSI readings at the high of the day or at the low of the day, not the close like Wells Waldo, who taught me RSI, used to do when he came up with this late 1960s. So, looking for a top in silver. Platinum, I have to say the same thing with one other comment. We are already, in 4 days, more than halfway up to the minimum upside objective from the pennant formation, which just simply broke out on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, today. My minimum upside objective, and it could be more, that's why I say minimum, is 1695. And that could happen very quickly on Monday or Tuesday, and/or. But I am still looking for a turning point down. I think it's too late to be buying. Next. Copper came to life, dropped off a little bit today, kind of back to some support a little bit. Well, that is interesting. I'll draw a line here across the first significant bounce and horizontal, and guess what? We came down back down to it today, but we also stopped right at it a couple of weeks ago. It could be a little support, slightly higher close. I wouldn't mind seeing this thing move up to 50.05, but I'm not long-term bullish. I am intermediate-term friendly, maybe a week or two up at most. And then I think we're going to see another bear trend persist. Leg of the bear trend down. Grain, soybeans, doji, trying to justify long-term bottoms in grains. This could be another low. Really, it's been a long time since I've seen a market for over a year have 5, if this is the 5th one, if lows in a fairly narrow price range, period. Just, the double, triple bottoms, yeah. Quadruple, quintuple, whatever 5 is, don't exist. But looking interesting. So I'm neutral to friendly with longer-term bullish expectations for all of the grains, and we see a little bit better performance in soybean oil. So support is tested. I think it's working its way back up. And going to test these previous tops. And again, if I'm right about a long-term situation, and now we have some evidence, by the way, you've got a major low way back a year ago, 13 months ago. Then a higher low. Then at a higher level, another low. Then at a much higher level, another low in June. And now we have another low, which is higher than all of the rest. So higher highs and higher lows define a trend. That's what we've got. But it's for the whole year. This could have been the last significant low before it does make higher highs and test a major resistance area in the ballpark of 58. I wished I would have gotten a green bullish engulfing ER buy signal, but next, oversold condition imply the wheat's about to turn up. It hasn't done it yet, but it probably will. Right around here, maybe a little bit lower, but that would help the rest of the grains probably turn up. Corn, same kind of thing. What did I say? Was that wheat? No, it was meal. I meant soybean meal. Wheat is not too far off of that. Corn, same commentary. Support held at the beginning of the week. We just dip back a little bit. All moves up and down, have little bounces in the opposite direction for a short period of times. They're called technical corrections, or a dip or a little rally in the opposite general trend. Next is wheat. And yeah, I don't see anything good, bad, ugly here. It's just sideways, looking for new highs, expecting this to be a bottom. Shell tested resistance on the way up, and it did gap up today. So I'm going to put a little marker in this gap area. So it is very obvious it gapped up. So resistance, very close to overbought, gapping up. All three imply top. Come back down to close the gap, very bare minimum. Probably down to 71-ish. Next, we've got Apple, which couldn't, again, hold any new highs, although I think it may have made a new high by a couple of ticks or something. Very tiny. And then closed lower, back in the same range we've had all week long. Well, starting the top half of Monday. 4.5 days. I think it's topping out, and the same story goes here. It's got a gap to close a little bit lower from last week. That's my minimum downside objective of 246.5. Then it's got support at lower levels and another gap and another support and so on. I think there's a good chance it could come down to at least 241, 231.50, 241.50, or even lower to close the gap, which would be at 234-ish. Next, we've got Tesla, second new high close for the trend, but not overbought again. Divergence, highest high RSI was not the highest high, price was. So you have a new high in price, but not in the indicator. And I do think it's in the process of turning around to also close a gap at 397.60-ish. And then lower again, probably, to a support area, which also closes another gap. And last, NVIDIA. Bumped against resistance very accurately at the beginning of the week. I said so at the time. Came back down close to support. I think it's still going to test the support. I'm looking for a little bit lower lows. And this broad resistance level over 2 months has at the beginning of it a bearish engulfing ER sell signal, which worked great for a day, but only one day. Otherwise, it's the beginning of what looks like, what is this, a quadruple top? There is no such animal. Just a flat-out resistance area that's very good so far. Next. You guys have a great weekend and profitable trading to you.